Chloe Kelly! England, European champions, history makers, record breakers, game changers.
The Lionesses have brought football home.
The Euros was amazing. It broke attendance records, made history and showed how much women's football has developed around Europe in such a short space of time.
But there's one thing that doesn't seem to be progressing so much. That's the ethnic diversity within the England squad. Compared with the men's game, the pool of diverse players to choose from in the women's game is a lot smaller.
In the past few years, the number of black and mixed race players in the England squad for a major tournament has decreased from 6 in 2007 to 2 in 2019. At the Women's World Cup in 2019, Demi Stokes and Nikita Paris were the only non-white players in the England squad. In the Men's World Cup squad the year before, there were 12 players of colour, celebrated as representing modern, multicultural England.
It's estimated that the proportion of ethnic minority players in the WSL is less than half than that of the Premier League.
We want to make it as inclusive as possible. We don't ever want anybody to feel like it's not their game because of the way they look, the colour of their skin. It's not something that we would be devastated if we felt like we were contributing to that. So of course it's important for us to portray that message, but also that we see what's been spoken about, we see it happening, and we help as much as we can with that. The higher powers, we wanted to know what they were doing. We asked those questions. The visibility of the game, the accessibility to the game, all of those things from the bottom that need to be, grassroots schools that need to be better so that we don't lose the diversity of the game, because I'm sure if you took everybody that was interested, you'd see a lot more than what you see represented in our team. So yeah, it's really important to us. We've sort of pushed the higher powers to know what they are doing, and there are things in place, so that'll be an ongoing issue that we want to contribute to as much as possible.
Last year I spoke to the FA about the issue around accessibility, and they said they knew things weren't good enough. They said inclusivity was compromised as we attempted to turn more professional. They had 52 centres of excellence, which they say was too many for the depth of talent at the time. Those 52 centres were reduced to 30. 2 years on, the FA say they're making good headway and that they've now got nearly 3 times the reach they used to have with regional talent centres.
After the Euros win, journalist Felicia Pennant wrote about the lack of diversity, saying she was very concerned that this historic win would also be used to justify the women's game's conditional inclusivity.
She also said that the lack of game time for players of colour hammered home how far the Lionesses' ethnic diversity has regressed since Hope Powell was manager. Alex Scott, Rachel Yankee, Leanne Sanderson, Eni Aluko and other women of colour were game-changing Lionesses once upon a time, she said. In that article, Felicia Pennant also drew comparison to the French team. The semi-finalists had 15 ethnic minority players in their 23-woman Euro squad.
So how does that kind of representation, or on the flip side, the lack of it in the England squad, affect fans and aspiring young footballers?
We had some mixed race players, but come on, surely there's got to be some black women in England who can play for England women.
Sapphire McIntosh grew up playing in the Leeds United Academy. She now plays for Romance FC.
And it's not so much about like competition, it's more like enjoyment. But within that, I've been able to build friendships and meet people that are similar to me, look like me as well.
While some people put the lack of diversity down to cultural barriers, England's first Asian lioness has different ideas.
I was born and raised in England. I'm from Southampton. My birth certificate says that. You're still going to get challenged by people saying, but where are you really from? And even recently, I posted about my story, and one of the comments from an internet troll was, what makes you feel like you have the right to play for England? I can see why so many parents are scared to put their kids into that kind of hostile environment, because it really was a hostile environment. When they look at the problem of there's an underrepresentation of something, they're always trying to look at the faults in the group. Right? Asians are too small, they're too frail, they only care about education, the religion. Well, Black Muslims have been playing in the game for donkeys of years. Like, we need to stop looking at what's wrong in a group and start looking at what's wrong with the system. What are we doing to educate ourselves about anti-racism? Because anti-racism is a practice. It's kind of like yoga. You have to keep on practicing it, right?
I think it's important for us to be empathetic as human beings in general. I'm from London. I see a lot of deprivation. I see a lot of young children who don't have opportunities. So if they don't have access from a lower level, they're never going to get to the top. You can't look at the top and say, okay, there's these issues. It's too late. You need to start at the bottom. And while I feel like I have a responsibility to talk about it, I think everyone does. I'm white, I have such a massive privilege, and I acknowledge that, which is part of the reason why I feel like I have such a responsibility also to push for more change, to allow young, black, Asian, any child to be able to see someone like them playing football. You've got to see it to believe it, I believe. It feels to me like so much more can be done, and if I can just do a small part, then I know that anyone involved in women's football can also do their small part, and that comes together, and that's when we make change. Together, collectively, and yeah, it's empowering.